Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Roker Rapport podcast in association with the Sunderland Community Soup Kitchen. It's Gav back straight after the game with Chris Wynn. Hiya Chris.
Evening Gav.
Evening. We've just watched Sunderland win 2-0 away at Huddersfield. Good 3 points on the road in some testing conditions with an even further weakened team with players missing, but it didn't seem to bother us, did it? We got the job done, and I know the goal at the end sort of makes it even sweeter, doesn't it? But I think we deserved it on the balance of play. Would you agree?
I would. I thought we were the better team. I thought we were the only team who wanted to play football, actually. Apart from how they're set up defensively, I don't think really Huddersfield offered anything at all. They had no patterns of play. They weren't. I mean, they were organised. Don't get us wrong. They were organised and they had a good shape about them off the ball when we were in possession, and they tried to double up down the flanks early on. But other than that, they had a couple of half chances and a couple of sniffs. But apart from that, I don't think Huddersfield really offered anything.
Nah. I don't know. Did Patterson make a save? I'm looking at the stats here now. Apparently they had 16 shots and only 3 on target.
Well, they did. But, they had a lot of shots from kind of edge of the box, 20 yards out. That kind of went wide, and they dragged a few shots wide. The only, we'll probably come back onto it, but the only save I remember Patterson really making was that one just before the goal.
Of course, yeah, bloody hell, yeah. That was really important when you think about it, because it was about a minute and a half before the goal.
That's it.
And it was a huge save because we'll probably come on to the way the game went and stuff, but we didn't really do ourselves justice when it came to the midfield. They just sort of walked through us, and we needed them to make that save, and it was crucial. I think somebody in our group chat said it, you think about the Blackburn game, for instance, how quickly a game can change. And, this one again, that save, we make that save, and then we score, we go down the other end. It just shows how quickly games can change. But, I'm over the moon with that win. I thought it was going to be tough. Me and you talked about it before the game on the last pod about how, this wasn't going to just be a walk in the park because Huddersfield are down the bottom. The home form's actually really good. And you can't really discount the fact that this team was in the playoff final and nearly got promoted. Had it not been for a bit of dodgy refereeing, they might have been a Premier League team right now, and just everything's conspired against them ever since that moment. But they've still got those players who did so well last season, so we would have been foolish to turn up there and just expect to win. I don't think that's really Mowbray's way anyways. He always talks quite a lot about how other teams are and how good they are and how we should respect them. So, we went there and we knew that we were going to have a game on our hands. And to be fair, first 10, 15 minutes, I thought we were pretty poor, and actually it was all them. But after that, it was a bit like Saturday in the sense that we grew into the game. As the game went on, we were by far the better team. But we did have to ride through a spell of pressure at the start, didn't we? You sort of expect that when you go away from home, though, don't you?
Yeah, we did, and it wasn't an easy game. Like I said at the start, I think there was only one team who wanted to play football, and I think when we were in possession, it showed how much respect Huddersfield Town gave us. That they dropped right kind of deep, and they played that kind of 5 across the middle. And they just let us have the ball, and because they know that we was kind of good in possession, and if they give us time and kind of come at us and they get space in behind, then we'll punish them. So they dropped right back, and they just let us have the ball and come all the way up into just inside their half before they actually put any pressure on us. But like you said, the first 15, 20 minutes, it was actually working, and I think what they did was that they squeezed the space so much that we couldn't really work a way to get in behind them. And the only way we could try and do it was Luke O'Nien playing kind of 40-yard diagonal balls to switch the play. And the other thing was Diaku, who was trying to stretch the play. So he was playing on the shoulder, trying to get him behind almost off a long ball, because we were struggling to kind of play through them. And like you said, Gav, we almost had to learn how to get into the game a bit like we did against Luton, which kind of bodes well for tough games like this, because this game was, they're down there, but the way they played, you wouldn't have thought that they were struggling all that much because of how organised they were, and like, they didn't offer too much going forward, but they weren't all over the place. They weren't kind of a shambles, and I think that manager's only, Craig Fotheringham, he's only been in there 5 weeks or something, but you can tell he's getting them organised, and he's getting a base, a foundation to build off. But yeah, it was a really tough game, that opening period. And like that first half was, you could split that first half in two, before the rain and during the rain, because when that rain came on 25 minutes, I mean, that was pretty much almost the end of the first half, really, because both teams were just battling through the weather.
Rain spoiled it. I was sat there half time. People were talking like, "Oh, this player's not playing well. That player's not playing well." I was thinking, to be honest, I can't sit here and really criticise anyone because the weather just ruined it as a spectacle. I was at Barnsley in the first season back in League One when Jack Ross was manager. It was us and them up the top of the table. And we went to Barnsley away midweek, similar type of game. I think it might have been similar time of year, actually. And the wind was wicked and it was terrible and it ruined the game. It made two teams who were quite decent look very, very bad. And that's a bit like it was in the first half of this game. The ball was like, it just wasn't sticking. Nothing was coming off. The rain was teeming down. The wind was howling across the pitch. It didn't suit the game. And obviously by the time the second half came around, I think by half time it had died off. And that's why the second half was a much better game, I think. I just don't think it, and it suited us more. I mean, we recognise, though, and you've got to give Mowbray credit for his subs, that he brought on Sims, because I thought if we can go a little bit more direct, then we've got a chance. And that's precisely what we did. And to be fair to Huddersfield, they brought on, I think it was called Diarra. He was brilliant. Came on in the midfield. Thought Rudoni played very well for them. So it wasn't as though, we ran through them. I actually think their midfield played quite well tonight. But we made our own changes, which were effective too. So it was quite interesting to watch how the game enveloped in that point.
Yeah, it was interesting that when you were talking there, like my son plays under 10s, and the other week, last week, it was absolutely hosing it down, and half the kids were starting to cry on the pitch and not wanting to play, and it was a bit like that in the first half, when it was absolutely hosing it down. If you looked at some of the players, some of them were just kind of trying to look away from where the rain was coming from, and kind of, like you said, it just completely killed the game. But and the difference when they came back out, you could almost see that the players were, when the wind died down and they came back out, they realised, right, we can play football again now. And like you said, it was a good game after that. I mean, it could have went either way. I mean, that Patterson save, like you said, Sims came on. I mean, it was kind of to and fro for the first 10 minutes of that second half, and I think it was only kind of about 8 minutes into the second half when Patterson made that save. And you could really argue. I mean, Patterson making that save because the lad was clean through. I think it was Rhodes who went clean through. I mean, you could argue that Patterson won us 3 points there, because if that went in, it was a completely different game. Yeah,
and we've been critical of how Sunderland sort of play around the halfway point in games. Normally at the end of the first half, we've conceded quite a lot of goals around the break, either just before or just after. But to be fair, like you say, we come out, we played football, and I actually think first half, if we were going to be critical of performances, I thought Pritchard struggled playing out on the left. But the goal was fantastic, and although he was the one who finished it off with a great finish, to be fair, it was Roberts and AMAD down the right-hand side linking up, which was the money, really. It was brilliant football by them too. And it had to be Pritchard, because he got booed every single time he touched the ball. It just had to be. Normally we're on the other end of that. Normally we're the ones getting booked by one of our old players. Like, normally I can probably reel off a list as long as my arm of players over the years who've been crap, and then they come back to play against us and score. I mean, Maguire last year, the one that still sticks in my mind. So for us to be on the other end of that for once was nice, because I can't remember the last time that happened. And yeah, great finish, wasn't it? He sort of had to stretch for it. I think it was his left foot. He opened his foot up, and it's a brilliant finish across the goalkeeper at the bottom corner. But like I say, the football and the build-up was outstanding.
It was absolutely brilliant. And you know what? It was about, I think it was only a few minutes into the second half. I was thinking probably the same as you, because Pritchard had that kind of moment where he tried to knock the ball in, he tried to swing his left foot at it, and he knocked it with his right, and then he just completely fell on his backside, and then they smashed the ball off him, and it was a handball. And at that point, I just thought he might need pulling off, because he looked really frustrated. Huddersfield fans were getting on his back. And then it was only a few minutes after that when the goal happened. But I mean, just about the goal, I mean, I would love to know how many seconds it was after Patterson made that save, but I loved our reaction to Patterson making the save. You know, it wasn't
picked us up.
It wasn't kind of keep the ball, oh, let's be safe or anything like that. It was like, oh, we've got a chance here. Let's catch them on the break. And I loved that reaction to Patterson's save, that we got the ball and drove forward. And like you said, Roberts down the left. I mean, how many times has he done it? I mean, a couple of times in that first half, he did a bit too much. He went across the pitch too much instead of maybe giving it earlier, and kind of we ended up losing the ball. But I mean, with this one, he kind of drove at the defence like he does, and he played that 1-2 with AMAD. And I mean, let's take a minute, just because we mentioned AMAD at that point. I thought AMAD was absolutely brilliant, and I think
brilliant. Yeah,
I think his touch on the ball and the way he compliments, I mean, just look at that goal, the way he compliments people like Roberts, that he can kind of play that style of football, and he just kind of links the play, and he's got that first touch that Roberts played him the ball, and he knew exactly what he was going to do with it next. He just kind of laid it back, and Roberts played it across to Pritchard. And to be fair, though, at that point, the start of the second half, the goal was against the run of play, to be fair to Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Huddersfield were the better side in the start of the second half.
But I think that's where we're dangerous, because we've got players to break against teams. And that's why I would argue we've been better away from home than we have at the Stadium of Light, because you look at the players that we had out on the pitch and they are set up to break. I mean, both goals were on the break, were against the run of play, tonight. But the problem is you can't play that way when you're at home, because teams don't come and fly at you like that.
But the thing I love about that, like I said, was I was talking about that shape Huddersfield had in the first half, where they just kind of squeezed the space and we had nothing. As soon as we realised, that they'd committed men forward, it was like we realised the space was there and we used it. Like you said, that's how we got the 2 goals, but we kind of, all right, we'd rather them not have the chance. But because they drew out, we kind of gave the ball out wide, and Roberts took advantage of that space. But yeah, like I said, I loved our reaction on noticing that was the case and getting forward.
Yeah, and we carried on as that sort of went on from there. The rest of the half, I thought we were really good. I know that it wasn't perfect, and Huddersfield did get forward. Like I say, I think Rudoni and Diarra in midfield, for them, they found it too easy to get through us. And Mowbray recognised that pretty quickly, to be fair, and he brought on a couple of players. He got Embleton and Evans off. I'll be honest, neither of them played very well tonight. But, the players who came on did. I thought Matete was excellent, and he doesn't really get a chance very often. I know he came on for Roberts a bit later in the game, but I thought he was great for the 10-15 minutes he was on. But Abdoullah was on the pitch for half an hour and was outstanding. Like, if he'd played the full game at that level, he would have probably got man the match, because he was excellent. I mean, I quickly looked on social media before, and everybody's talking about just how impressive he was. I even stuck him in our man the match poll up on Twitter that I did really quickly before we came on, and he finished up with 18% of the votes. But it was AMAD who got man the match. You'll be unsurprised to hear. But yeah, I mean, the subs did make a difference, didn't they? And Mowbray got it right. And we have been critical of these subs over recent weeks, but I thought at the weekend they were good, and I thought tonight they were great again. So you've got both. Then you've got to say the quality of the player on the bench the last few games has been a lot better, hasn't it?
Yeah, and what I loved about it, I mean, again, it was only 5 minutes after we scored the goal that Mowbray made those changes, but just because we made the comment a couple of weeks back where we had a bit of, we were talking about Mowbray's substitutions and trying to understand them. 5 minutes after the goal, you could see a clear reason why Mowbray thought, right, we need to make this change. We'd just gone 1 up. 5 minutes later, and he recognised that, Evans and Embleton were getting a bit overrun in midfield. And then he said, right, well, let's put Dan Neil on, let's put Barr on, and let's kind of change the play in the middle of the park. And it did straight away. And we've talked about in the past. We've talked about our game management. I mean, as soon as we made those changes, and again, clear instructions. You could see the instructions being played out on the pitch. Like Neil and Bar just keeping possession, not doing anything stupid. And we played it around the back, and I thought it was brilliant. And I thought we managed the game, brilliantly after we made those substitutions. Yeah,
we did. And another shout out for another crap ref, by the way, because he nearly cost us. Because do you think it was a foul from 09 or not? I didn't. I thought it was soft.
It was, but I've seen them given. I don't think the referee was that bad tonight, to be honest. I think.
Well, I just feel like he could have cost us. I feel like he could have cost us.
I think compared to some of the referees we've seen this season, I think this referee wasn't bad. Yeah, that's a low bar, but he wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was. There was a couple of moments within a few minutes. There was that one where I don't think it was a foul from 09, and they get a free kick and nearly score from it. The shot just goes wide, and then about a minute after that, Abdoullah Bar goes into a 50-50 with the other lad who, and gets booked. Yeah. And I'm going. I couldn't understand that. So there were some. I just thought towards the end of the game when it was still in the balance, he lost control of it with a couple of silly decisions. But yeah, I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Bar because he done nothing wrong. He fully committed to a tackle and got booked for it, and so did the other player. Though that's football, isn't it? Pitch is wet. It's a slick surface. Two players going for the same ball. There was nothing malicious in it, and he gives him a yellow. I just thought it was weak. But we cracked on from there. To be fair, I didn't see the second goal coming, but we made a pretty. To be fair to Mowbray again, another good attacking sub. He takes off Pritchard, who gets a rousing applause, as you can imagine, from the Huddersfield fans sort of begrudgingly boo him off. They think of him like he's Jack Rodwell, because he was there. They signed him for massive money. He was injured pretty much the whole time he was there. He never played well when he was fit, and he was the highest earner. And they got relegated, and he sat on that contract in the Championship. Like, they really hate Pritchard. So, I mean, obviously I was loving it. But he came off in injury time, so he got a bit more time than normal, which, to be fair, in the pod before the game, we did say that I thought this game might be one where Mowbray has a bit of a chat with him and says, look, he really wants to play in this game. This is your moment to shine, and he took it. I know he wasn't great, but he definitely deserved that little applause off the pitch. And then on came Bennette, who I thought was really effective, even though he came on in injury time, because he closed down, he harried, he harassed, and according to Frankie Francis, he scored until he realised it wasn't him. but it was actually AMAD who got the goal in the 6 minute of injury time on the break. Huddersfield were pushing to get an equaliser, and you have to commit bodies forward at that point when you're 1-0 down in injury time. I think they even sent the goalkeeper for set pieces and stuff. But they committed forward. We got a good break. I thought that the lads done really well to get into the position they did. Sims times it perfectly, passed it to AMAD. Very fortunate because it goes right through the goalkeeper, but we don't care. It was a good goal, and he deserved it. For me, my man of the match. Like I say, we put the poll out on Twitter just after the game to ask people who they thought was man of the match. He was comfortably the winner with 44.3% of the votes. Any arguments there? Do you think he was our best player?
I do. I mean, I think he was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic. But two players I want to give a lot of credit to tonight, because in that last 15 minutes, Huddersfield Huddersfield kind of, they threw everything at us, but we kind of just kept them at arm's length. And I think Danny Bart and Bailey Wright had a lot to do with that. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I don't think...
And O'Nien as well, by the way. I thought O'Nien at the start of the game was the standout player at the start of the game.
Yeah. Did he come second in that poll?
I didn't even include him.
There you go. But I think Danny Bart and Bailey Wright deserve a lot of credit tonight. I think that's kind of the second time this season they've played alongside each other, and I thought they were fantastic. Neither of them put a foot wrong. They just got on with their jobs, and they just threw themselves at everything. The brilliant thing about Bailey Wright as well was late on. There was a couple of times where you could see, I think Dennis Serkin was knackered at one point. I think Matete didn't get across to a winger quick enough at one point and let him get the ball in. And Bailey Wright was all over them. And
Yeah.
I think that's the type of player we needed in a game like that. Where the weather's bad, we're playing against a physical side, and I think those two at the back deserved a lot of credit. But yeah, I mean, fantastic goal. The other thing I wanted to mention, just about AMAD getting man of the match. Yes, fantastic going forward. But how about that bicycle kick with 2 minutes to go to clear it in the 6-yard box?
Yeah. Outstanding. And we can't go by this goal without mentioning the celebration, because I mean, if you haven't seen this on social media yet, Luke O'Nien just I don't know. I was howling laughing when I first seen it. I mean, we're just watching it on loop here. Ahmad's face down on the floor, knackered, and O'Nien comes sliding in from the side. Like that's I don't know, it's hilarious. But yeah, people should dig that out.
Just quickly on celebrations. You mentioned Pritchard. You mentioned Pritchard, the comparison with Jack Rodwell. If Jack Rodwell had celebrated a goal at the Stadium of Light like Pritchard did, there would have been
people running on the pitch
trying
to kill him.
I was loving it because it was us, but just because you did that, I mean, imagine if Rodwell had done that. I don't think he would have gotten out the stadium, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like Tony Mowbray was particularly impressed with the performance. Just reading what he had to say to Phil Smith after the game, he said, "Our performance level has to be miles better than that. I didn't think we could play as bad as that. Credit to Huddersfield, but we played like the weather. It's probably my fault as well. I picked too many attacking players." So he wasn't happy. Normally when we get beat or we scrape a draw, he's full of praise for the players, but we've won this one. Yeah. And he doesn't seem particularly happy. But I mean, I think he's doing them down a bit there, to be honest. I think second half we were definitely good enough. But a lot of people would agree with him, and he's the manager. He's the one who takes it all on himself, doesn't he? And he's quite happy to deflect all the criticism from the players. So fair play for him for holding his hands up and saying, but he didn't think we played very well.
Yeah, there could be a little bit in that, because if this season so far, I mean, what is it, 18 games, and we haven't won back-to-back games this season. So you wonder if there's a bit of kind of psychology in there to say, let's not kind of celebrate that win. We haven't done anything yet, and keeping their feet on the ground. Saying, right, we're going to do better next week, because he's looking for a bit of consistency. He's looking for those back-to-back wins. Yeah.
He also mentioned that the reason that Mishu wasn't in the squad was because he got injured against Luton. So he's going to be missing for the last 2 games and won't be back till after the World Cup break. So it's a bit unfortunate. He did say that he was playing his way into contention for a start, which a lot of people would have played him tonight. There was quite a lot of people calling for that. So bit of a shame, isn't it? Because he was decent at the weekend, but it is what it is, I guess. People get injured. We've had plenty of them this season. Nothing new to us. We asked for some 3-word reviews on Twitter just to round off. I'll read a few out. We've got Isola Sean again saying buzzing for Pritchard. Glenn Foster says love this team. Ian Cunningham says Ahmad's different gravy. Sunderland Uruguay saying buenos 3 puntos. I presume that means...
What does that mean, Gav?
I was going to hope you were going to jump. Just buying time while I press translate. It means good 3 points. Yeah. Sean on the pod account says I'm fucking blind. Aslan says what we needed. Mike Edmonds doesn't understand what 3-word review means, because he's put got out of jail second half. That's 5. That's 6. 6, is it? I can't count. Jamie says Alex fucking Pritchard. Adam says Sims must start. Connor Belshaw says wet, wet, wet. Lee, that's 5 again. Joshua Gargett says O'Nien's mega slide. A lot of Sunderland fans don't know what 3-word review means. We've got quite a lot of these. HP SAFC, O'Nien's celebration funny. And Connor will end on yours, Abdoullah fucking bar. So, yeah, quite a lot of people just relieved, I think, with the win, Chris. But we move on, don't we? We've got another game at the weekend coming up, thick and fast. We've got this one at the weekend and then one more before the World Cup break. So we play Cardiff on Saturday. Obviously, Mishu's not going to be available, but we've got another one where we need to win, really. I mean, you look down the table, Cardiff sitting in 18th place, only 3 points below us. Started the season slowly. I think they were right around the bottom places in the table, so they've picked up a little bit, but lost tonight against Watford at home, won at the weekend when they played Rotherham, lost in that big game to Swansea, the derby. So bit like us, a little bit inconsistent maybe. And like you said, we haven't put back-to-back wins together yet this season. What are you expecting?
I think it's three. I think it's got to be 3 points at the weekend. I think we've got to put successive wins together. I think looking at Cardiff's form, they've lost 4 out the last 5. I think tonight they went ahead early on, and then Watford got back and beat them 2-1. If you look at their away form, they've lost 6 out of 9 this season. They've only won 2. They've conceded 15. There's not many. I think there's only 2 or 3 teams who've conceded more away from home. I think there's only 2 clubs who've scored less than them away from home. I think it's got to be 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just looking as well. They've lost 4 out the last 5. Yeah, it's another one. I said before this game, we talked about how we couldn't underestimate Huddersfield because their league position might be a little bit false. But I still said we had to win it. And I think this is another one we've got to win. I think, to be honest, when you look at the lead up to the break, Cardiff, a decent team to be playing at this stage.
Yep.
Then we've got Birmingham who are just on the same points as us in the table. And then after the break, we've then got Millwall, West Brom, Hull. So the teams who are around us or just below us. This is a good chance for us to pick up a bit of momentum. I think we've got to go into the break with momentum. That's the thing. I know I've been saying, let's just limp over the line a bit. But if we can get, say, 4 points from the next 2 games, that's huge for our sort of preparation going into the winter break, because we know what we've got coming up. We know obviously before that Millwall game, we're going to have potentially Elise, Ballard, Stewart, a fully fit Sims, a fully fit Roberts. Now he's back in the team. Potentially Niall Huggins. So we've got a lot of players coming back, and we know that means that it should be a bit like, a fresh start straight after that break. So if we can go into it with a little bit of momentum, it would make the world a difference. And I mean, Cardiff are beatable from what I can tell. I haven't seen a great deal of them this season, but the transfer business in the summer was something I kept talking about, because they just went out and signed like 100 free agents before anybody else had signed a player. And it just seemed like, when you look at it and you're like, they're not going to have a good season doing that. And there's nothing really about them that particularly scares us, like I keep saying this about teams. There was nothing really about Huddersfield that particularly scared us. Thought, if we get our game plan right, we'll beat them. Same goes with Cardiff, really. They're going to be coming to us and thinking the same, though. They're going to be coming and thinking, if we can slow the game down, if we can grind it out, if we can put 10, 11 men behind the ball, we might sneak a win, we might get a point. And we've played that type of team enough times this season and last season. We should know how to beat them, really. So just a case of, do we come to the party or not? We've got a lot of players now playing out for contention in the team. Would you make any changes? Has anybody tonight came off from the bench and staked a good enough claim, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, but again, they've made a difference to the game for a specific reason. So it depends how Mowbray wants to start off against Cardiff. And from my point of view, I mean, looking at their away games that they've had recently, they've just been beaten 2-0 by Swansea, 3-0 by QPR. I honestly think Cardiff are there for the taking, and I'd like to see us on the front foot from the off. So does that mean Bar's Energy might be better than like say Embleton started tonight? Would Bar's Energy be better in there to be on the front foot? Maybe I'd maybe even consider from the start, because even though he got the goal tonight, I thought he really looked frustrated before that on the left hand side. Maybe Bennette for Pritchard. But I'd like us to play with a lot of pace and be on the front foot from kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah, that might be why he doesn't bring in Bar, which people would probably be a little bit upset with. I thought he'd done really well when he came on, and he has definitely stated a claim. I mean, them central midfield spots are opening up at the minute, but I've just got a feeling we might not see him start a game until after the break. So I wouldn't be looking to change an awful lot. I just think we've got to do exactly what you just said. We've got to start on the front foot. It's difficult away from home to do that, and that's why I think we were really bad first 10 minutes at the weekend. Tonight, I thought we were poor first 10 minutes, but we grew into the game, and your game plan has to be different away from home. The home team because they've got all their fans there, they expect to start in the front foot and start quickly. Same goes for us. We've got to do the exact same. We've got the players to do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We'll have Clark back as well, which I totally forgot about until he was mentioned there. Clark's probably going to come back into the side.
Yeah, that's true.
And we keep saying it, but AMAD is undroppable at the minute for me. Just best player on the pitch, and you can't drop him. So it's making it difficult for Mowbray because he's now got, it's Sims potentially. Is he going to be fit enough to start a game? Bearing in mind, in his pre-match, Mowbray was talking about how Sims might get 10 minutes here and there when he was asked by the press if he was fit enough to start. He was obviously bluffing a little bit because he brought him on at half time, and Sims, got through the half fine. So could he look at it and think, well, he's got minutes now, is he ready to start? I don't know how they're going to work it. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to feel a little bit sorry for Diaco as well, because he worked hard in that first half, and you could see he was up for it. You could see he was closing them down, but 25 minutes into the first half when he started, then the rain came down and completely changed the game. So, but like I said, a fully fit Sims gets in. Who knows what where he is kind of on his kind of comeback. Does he need another game on the bench? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see if he does start on Saturday. But I just think if we get an early goal against Cardiff, looking at their form, looking at where they are on the table, I think it's game over.
Yeah. What do you reckon the score will be then? Or how are you predicting the flow of the game will go?
I'm hoping that's what we go for. I hope we kind of just go at them, go for them, and I'm hoping another repeat of the likes of the Rotherham game at home. I'm hoping for kind of a 3-0 or something at the weekend. I honestly think Cardiff are there for the taking.
Yeah, I think we're due one of those types of wins, aren't we? We're due just where we go out and we just take a team apart and win comfortably. That would be nice.
And we did against Burnley for 45 minutes. If we play anything like we did in that first half against Burnley, against Cardiff, it'll be a cricket score.
It's funny you mentioned that Rotherham game because I'm just flicking through the fixtures, and that's probably the last time we had a comfortable win. It's 31st of August. We're talking like over 2 months ago now, so we are due one.
Well, tonight was our first first away win for exactly 7 weeks. Feels a long time, doesn't it?
Well, there you go. Yeah. It hasn't been... I mean, that's the thing, a lot of people have been critical of the manager, the players, the way things, that could see things going. And I think it's important just to take stock, isn't it? And look at just how many big players we've got missing and the way we've managed to get through that period. And it hasn't just been a couple of games, it's been months and months. I mean, you talk about the Rotherham game, that was the last time Ross Stewart played.
Yeah.
2 months ago. Our best player last played 2 months ago. Yeah. And then the Middlesbrough game, which was the one after, was the one where he got injured in the warm-up, and then we played Reading in the following game, and that's where Sims got injured. So we've been without Sims for 6 weeks, maybe just 7 weeks, and he hasn't even started a game yet. So it is tough. It's tough. It's a tough league we're in. People have got to remember where we've come from, 5th in League One, to come into this league and just embrace it the way we have. We were always going to have some inconsistent performances and results, but I don't think another team in this league has been dealt the hand we have with the players we've had missing. And you've got to give credit. That's why I'm personally refusing to be overly critical of Mowbray in particular, because he's got what he's got, and they're trying their best, And I mean, let's look at it. Since that Reading game, we've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've played 9 games since that Reading game without a striker who started the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, Sims is back, but we've still scored goals. We've still found a way to play. You've got to give them credit.
Yeah, and you've got to remember Mowbray has had 10 games in charge. So he's only had one game. I'm pretty sure he's only had one game where he's actually had fit strikers at his disposal to actually put in the starting 11.
What was his first game? I'm trying to think.
I thought it was the Rotherham game, but I might be wrong. So
no, you're right. It was Rotherham. Rotherham was his first game.
So he's only had one game where he's actually had a fit striker. So if you go off that, I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, if you come back to the fact that we're 12th in the table, right smack bang in the middle, which I keep banging the drum on this, but for me, that's par for the course for this season. That's kind of where I think we are this season. But we're 5 points off the playoffs, 5 points off the drop, And we've done all of this with all of the problems we've had. Dan Bollard being injured, Stewart being injured, Sims being injured, not having a fit striker. And we are where we should be. Even though we've had all of those problems, we are where we should be. So, chances are, okay, it's not going to be an exact science. It's not going to, just work like that, click of a fingers. But chances are, if we get those players fit, we'll be looking up the table.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing right now. I mean, another 3 points at the weekend against Cardiff could potentially take us as high as 9th, above Luton, who, when we played them, everyone was talking about how they're going to be mounting a playoff push, above Reading, who for most of the season have either been top, second or third, so they're just starting to drop off now. So it shows you how tight this league is, and another win could, like I say, take us up as far as 9th. Looking further down the table, Cardiff beat us. I mean, they're not going to beat us by enough, you would like to think, to swing the goal difference. But Cardiff win would put them level with us, and they're 18th. So it's important just to keep our heads and remember how far we've came. And I'm looking forward to this game at the weekend. I think we're gonna give them a good scene. To be honest, I've just got a feeling we're gonna give them a hiding. Yeah. And I'm probably going to eat my words now because this is all on record. It's all being listened to. So if we do get beat, sorry. But blame me. Oh, one other thing before we go. Southern Community Soup Kitchen are doing a collection outside the Love Supreme shop on Saturday before the game, doing a food collection. So make sure you take a bag of tins down, all your non-perishables, toothpaste, all those type of things. Bang them in a bag. Drop some stuff off. It'll be much appreciated by Andrea and the team. We'll hopefully have a couple of us down there helping out too. So make sure you do that. We'll put that out on the feeds over the coming days and stuff as well, so there's a bit more information about it. But just outside the Love Supreme shop on the corner of the Stadium of Light, that's where that'll be. You'll be able to see them, and maybe you'll get to go meet Andrea. She's lovely, so make sure you say hello. So we've got no preview pod this week, Chris, because of this one. We've just jammed this in the middle. We thought it would be a bit better for us and for the listeners if we record this one tonight. Right. But we do have all of our regular content coming up on rokerreport.com as the week goes on. We'll be building up to the game. We'll have a pod at the weekend after the Cardiff game, hopefully talking about 3 points. And like I say, if we lose, then I'll probably go into hiding. But other than that, thanks, Chris. Get yourself to bed.
Cheers, Gav.
Because we were both yawning before we came on. I'm a bit more energetic now. And thanks to the listeners for joining us. Like I say, make sure you catch us across everything. And other than that, we'll catch you later. Cheers.